you'll be overcome to keep remembering the right notes.
There you go. Good advice.
Morning, fellow Toastmasters. Greg, my name is Matt Donnelly, and my strategy for success is to never give up and to never give in, and you'll be okay. And to be resilient. And.
All
See, I'm being resilient on saying my favorite word, and. And if I ever have a child, I'm going to name that little goofball and. So I'll be resilient in asking the table topics questions today.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and Greg. My name is Jackie Goldhans, also known as Family Project Manager of Families and Other Projects. I am resilient in taking little steps, baby steps at a time towards my success. I really don't know what my goal is. It's just living each day creatively and happily.
And last but not least.
That's right. That's
Fellow
right.
Toastmasters and Greg, I'm Geraldine Weigel. I work for the Department of Transportation. And I'm the right-of-way manager, so my everyday job is resiliency. Because I get to deal with all kinds of landowners from all walks of life. And if that isn't the true definition about it.
Well, thank you, everyone, and welcome. Welcome back, Greg. And what I heard and saw from each one of you was some strategy for success, whether it's adding humor to our mistakes, continuing to go, never giving up, positive attitude, what we call ourselves princess, or all kinds of other things. Speed, who sped in here and he's on time right away with that bell. So congratulations to everyone, because whether you think it or not, it's coming out. So we continue, ring the bell. Put a filler word in there. We continue to be resilient, coming here every week, and practicing at Toastmasters. I will introduce our first evaluator, who will be evaluating our first speaker. He's going to say a little bit about our speaker, and then I have just a few more words to say about that. Patrick, what would you like to tell us about Rich's speech?
All right. Rich is working on Project 2 Rich is working on Project 2, organize your speech in his competent communication manual. He needs to have a strong opening that gains attention, have good supporting material like facts, visual aid, a story, have a good transition, and have a strong conclusion. And his speech is 5 to 7 minutes.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you. So now we know what to look for in Rich's speech. Our first speaker is Rich Briner. He believes we are all more humorous than we know. When we are at our best, we have the ability to laugh at ourselves. He's here to inspire us to do that. You will learn how easy it really is and how we have nothing to fear. Speaking on admitting our schnoozles, Rich Briner.
If you were there that day on the second level of the Senior Citizen Center with a low ceiling, you would have been looking up on the stage there and you would have seen Rich Briner in a red tie. You would have noticed that his socks were red. You would have seen him doing the same blessed speech that he gave at the contest and that he gave here in the contest about going off of a diving board. You would have been there. You would have watched the dramatic moment when I went to jump off the diving board. As I jumped up, I hit my head on a low structural beam. Bam! And the next thing I knew, I was laying on the floor people looking at me like I was on the bottom of a huddle, a football huddle. I took my hand off of my head and there was blood there, and I heard Walter Shields say, "Look, his hand is the same color as his socks." Fellow Toastmasters and guests, that is a schnozzle made famous by Jimmy Durante. Jimmy Durante, he had a big schnoz, and he made famous this quote: "When we admit our schnozzles, instead of defending them, we begin to laugh, and the world laughs with us." My purpose today is to inspire us to do just that, to be able to be more easily able to admit our schnozzles. There's a lot of reasons why it's good. One is it tells other people that we don't take ourselves too seriously, but we do take what we do seriously. It makes us more approachable. We look more friendly. In the midst of some tragedy, we can rise above it, rising above the situation by being able to perceive our shortcomings and poke fun at them playfully. Jimmy Durante, as a kid, it was agony for him to have a big schnoz. It was agony. And even as an adult, he was never happy about the schnoz. He was interviewed by a biographer one time, and here's what he said: "Even while I'm out there on stage laughing and kidding about the nose and making a fortune on account of the beak, at no time was I ever happy about it." Making big bucks. He even insured his schnoz for $100,000. Then one day, he got a letter from a little boy. And I have the contents of that letter here, and I'd like to read it. The little boy says, "Dear Jimmy Durante, I got a big nose, Mr. Durante, and everybody laughed at my nose. But then I saw you in a movie, and gee, when you kept laughing about your nose, it made me feel good all over. And the other fellas call me Schnoz now, and I'm awful proud of it." Jimmy Durante put the letter down. He sat silently for a few moments at his breakfast table, and then he called out to his housekeeper, Maggie Arnold. He yelled, "Maggie, Maggie, a big load has just fallen off me, Maggie, like an awful curse." So we see that the ability to admit our schnozzles, instead of defending them, we begin to laugh at ourselves and the world laughs with us, but we also inspire others to do the same, just as Jimmy Durante did in this story. And the ability to be able to laugh at ourselves, to admit our schnozzles, is really easier than we think. It's simply telling a story on yourself, depicting yourself in an embarrassing or a foolish decision that you have made. It's easy to do. And the exemplar of this is a student of mine named Andy. Andy finished a speech of 7 minutes. That's about it. A speech he struggled through. It took him 7 minutes. It would take any of us about 5 minutes. At the end of the speech, one of my students in the back of the room raised his hand and said, "Andy, have you stuttered all your life?" The same quiet filled the room, and you could feel that this was an embarrassing situation. But Andy looked out. No, not yet. He had the ability to poke fun at one of his perceived shortcomings. If we have that ability too, we can be at the height of resilience, because no matter what life sends our way, we are able to rise above the situation by admitting our schnozzles instead of defending them. And when we do that, we begin to laugh, and the world laughs with us.
Very inspiring speech there with our snoozle snozzles. Thank you very much, Rich. This is a reminder to use your notes. Write a note to Rich. Let him know what you thought about it. Pass it to him, and then later on we will be voting between Rich's speech and the next speech I'm about to introduce. So Brian's evaluator is Tracy Hauk. Tracy, would you tell us what to expect, what we are anticipating with Brian's speech?
Absolutely. I said in my introduction I didn't have a real job. I forgot. I did have a real job. I found it very interesting when I spoke with Brian on the phone that he was doing a competent communicator speech, research your topic. It's one of the ones that he loves most. Just as much as the rest of us hate this particular speech. So he's going to come up here, do 5 to 7 minutes. We're going to be listening, of course, if the topic applies to the audience, and I think it will. Was it well researched? Did he support his main points? How appropriate was it? Did he overwhelm us with facts? Did he not give us enough facts? So a general speech evaluation, also with the research covered into it.
Excellent, thank you very much. Brian has worked in construction for most of his life. From age 19 to today, he has been a union carpenter to a non-union supervisor. Today, he will tell us why unions are good for America in his speech titled, Union Yes. Brian Logston, Union Yes.
Nearly 36 years ago, in August of 1981, then President Ronald Reagan did something that changed the world. Now, I'm not talking about the trickle-down theory, where if you cut taxes for corporate America, it'll trickle down to the workers eventually, although that's part of the equation. What I'm talking about is when he threatened to fire 13,000 professional air traffic controllers. Who remembers PATCO? It was a big deal. Everyone got, I'm not going to fly. We don't know who's behind the radars, right? I didn't fly for like 3 years until it all settled out. But the New York Times says this one labor dispute changed the course for the American worker. How? One thing, stagnation of income. Fellow Toastmasters, don't we all want to make more money? Since 1981, if there was a research done by Patrick Davis and Jennifer Laird at the University of Washington, and they said that if the union membership percentages, which was above 30%, was still as strong as it was in 1979 before the PATCO incident, each person in this room, union or non-union, will be making at least 10% more in wages. Why? Because the union, in their bargaining with employers, creates a ground zero, where non-union employers have to match to try to get the educated, skilled worker they have to match that wage. Unions bargain for a higher wage. Now, unions also have a bad name, right? But let me tell you, in 1979, I was working in the summer to make money for college. I was going to build a silo, something I had never done. But I was in a small boondock town in Pennsylvania where they had a coal mine, building a coal silo for train load out. What I knew for a fact was I was making more money than any of my friends. Why? Because I was in the UMWA. I had to join the United Mine Workers of America. I had nothing to do with the mine, really. I was in construction. But I had to join it because I was on that site. What I found out was, my God, I had medical insurance. I didn't even know I needed it when I'm 20 years old, right? I didn't know that I could get vacation pay. Oh my God, get a check right before Christmas. How wonderful is that? I didn't know that they started a pension for me. Who thinks about pension when you're 20 years old, right? You don't. But these are the things that unions were doing for the American worker. Now, I also know that unions have a bad name. When I was building this particular silo, we were about 30 feet up on a continuous round-the-clock pour, 24 hours a day, 2 12-hour shifts. And we were only 30 feet up of a 140-foot silo. And we had heard rumblings about the union mine workers were going to go on strike. Who hasn't heard about striking union people? And who has a bad idea about that? Well, there we were working away, and up drove a convoy of pickup trucks with guys in the back with guns. Now, we were on a continuous pour. We were supposed to go for 2 more weeks straight. But when the gunshots fired over our heads, our boss said, level it out, put keyway in the concrete. And we came down. Did I like a strike? No, I lost 2 weeks of wages before they went back to work. Did I like the wages though? I did. I did. But unions do have a bad name, yes? Perry Heidecker, who's senior counsel for an employment law practice in Boston, cites 4 reasons for union decline. I thought together we could find those 4 reasons. What's your first thought about unions? Have you ever been in a union?
I have been in the union.
You have been in a union?
I did. I did like the fact that somebody else was helping me negotiate wages and look out for me so I could concentrate on my job.
Who has a bad opinion of unions? Deborah, why?
Can complicate relations between management and employees.
That's a good one. That's a good one. One of the things that I mentioned was the perception that, they are violent and maybe even criminal. Has anyone had that thoughts? Jimmy Hoffa, AFL-CIO, So poor public image is one. Out of sync with the average worker. Do you realize what occurred after Ronald Reagan? Well, Ronald Reagan, when he basically fired the PATCO people, created a shift in the political arena also. Which party supports, seemingly, the American worker? The Democratic Party represents unions. Unions always back the Democrats. And the Republicans, corporate America. Is that true today? It still seems that way, doesn't it? That one incident, according to the New York Times, created the start of the widening gap between blue-collar work and corporate America. The wage difference. Where the American dream of owning a house and having enough money to pay for the house and food and still have money to put away is dissolving because of stagnation of wages.